Ever since I can remember as a youngster, I always wanted to grow up to be a fighter pilot. And I'm one of those few individuals that got to do exactly what he always wanted to do. I graduated from Western in 1966 at the height of the Vietnam War, and I knew as soon as I graduated I was going to be reclassified and I was going to be drafted. And so I immediately went down to the local Air Force recruiter and joined the Air Force and got to be a fighter pilot. My first assignment was flying F-111As at Nellis Air Force Base, just like this airplane. This one doesn't have a radome on it because we're working on it, but this is the first airplane I flew operationally in the Air Force at Nellis in 1968. And I flew it for several years. Ended up flying it on my second tour in Vietnam. I went back and flew F-111s on a tour in Southeast Asia. Came back to the States, did some other stuff, but eventually ended up in 1980 stationed at RAF Lakenheath, England, flying F-111s. In fact, I flew this very airplane twice. First time I flew it was the day before my birthday in 1981, and then the second time I didn't fly it again until 1984. I had like 20 airplanes in my squadron. Some of them I flew 6, 8, 10, 12 times. Some of them I flew 2. I happened to fly this one twice. But we were very lucky to get her here to Bowling Green. We told the Air Force that we wanted to tell the story of Operation Dorado Canyon, the raid on Libya, and they said, well, there's an airplane out at the boneyard that you can, we'll loan you so that you can use to tell that story. And so we went out there in 2010 and looked at her. She looked awful. She'd been sitting there in the desert since 1996, and you can imagine the dirt and crud stuff that was on her. But we knew what we could make her look like, and so we said, yes, we want it. And so we brought it back to Bowling Green and put her together and painted her. And she's painted today just exactly like she looked the day we flew on the Libya raid, down to the color of her hubcaps.
Retired U.S. Air Force Colonel Arnie Franklin accumulated over 3,500 flying hours that include 780 hours of combat flight. In 1986, he was selected to fly in Operation El Dorado Canyon.
I was lucky enough to be selected to be the mission commander for that raid. Took off about 6 o'clock in the evening. We were in the air for about 14 hours. Because France would not let us fly across their country, we had to fly all the way around France, Portugal, Spain, through the Straits of Gibraltar into the Mediterranean, dropped off from our tankers up there, went down, did the attack against 3 different targets in Libya, and turned around, went back to our tanker, and then turned around and came back to Lakenheath. I took off about 6 o'clock in the morning on the 14th, and I landed after 7 o'clock the next morning. Long night, refueled 19 times. We lost 1 airplane. I saw him hit the water. To this day, we don't know what caused him to crash.